What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers for UFC Vegas 91. We got Ivana Petrovic going against Liang Na. And yeah, we are back off of a 1-week break and actually really like this card. Me and Weezy were talking about it backstage. I think this is a very violent card. We have a bunch of very, very violent fighters. We got the doctor, I think they call him Uroš Medić, on the card. We have Liang Na's on the card. We have Jonathan Pierce is on the card. Bogdan Guskov, Karine Silva. Just a very violent card, I feel like, and that's all I can really ask for on a Saturday. So yeah, looking forward to this card. Looking forward to being back. Maybe there's a little rust. It feels like it's been a while, Weezy, but we are back after a 1-week break. How are you doing? You looking forward to UFC Vegas 91?
Yeah, man, this was a long week off for me in particular, Brady. I've been coding all week. I switched around the product. I switched around the display of the stats for the advanced stats, for the matchup stats, which you're seeing on the screen right now. I've created a new template, updated my old over-under template, which used to be called the prop template. So I finished these stats 4:30 this morning, Brady, and then went to sleep and my girlfriend woke me up at like almost 1 p.m., called me a degenerate, told me to get my ass out of bed. So yeah, it was a long week of coding and grinding it out on spreadsheet shit, but we got it done. The stats are updated. It's a cleaner look. It's a little more visible. We got some divisional benchmarks posted, not just the comparisons between the stats and the divisional benchmarks, and a bunch of new products that are available on the Patreon. So I'm really looking forward to showing these new stats to everybody here on the show, Stat Diggers. But as far as this card goes, we always say the best cards of the year are the ones where we just stack cash tickets like flapjacks, and I love this card from a betting perspective so far. I haven't fully researched all the fights, but I'm seeing some spots that are sticking out, and I'm kind of like holding myself back from just kind of emptying both barrels here. But I think that this is a really exciting fight card to watch, and I think it's going to be really fun from a gambling perspective too. So I'm looking to see if we're going to be on some of the same spots here and if we have some of the same leans, and then I'll start probably emptying the shotgun with both barrels, Brady, looking to get back into action here. I think we've got, a 4-week stretch here before we get another week off, and then we hit that really long summer stretch that the UFC is known for. So, yeah, looking forward to breaking it down with you, the chat here on Pub Sports Radio. Going to be a fun show.
I mean, if your reads are, parlaying up Dontel Mays and Liang Na, then I think we will be on the same page.
I like making money, Brady, so that will not be one of my reads for this week. So, but we're going to talk about it. And you got the wig out. It is Liang Na fight week. This is something that we celebrate here on Pub Sports Radio, here on Stat Diggers. Brady's a huge fan, and even though she's on a 3-fight losing streak and has looked absolutely horrible over that stretch, there's still hope. There's still a chance. And if she pulls this one out, Brady, I think we see another 4-fight contract. And just that alone, the hope of that alone, is enough to fuel me through this week and really look forward to this show. So let's get it done today. What's up to everybody in the chat? I'm looking forward to breaking these fights down with everybody.
I don't know how the hell Liang Na fights with one of these on. I mean, it's getting in my eyes the whole time. I can barely do a podcast, let alone go out there and get into a fight. So I don't know how she does it, Weezy.
I don't know either, but when you're as skilled of a fighter as Liang Na, you find a way to persevere through some of those bad life choices that she's made with the recent haircuts.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I got a little emotional before the show, dug out the wig, and I was like, man, this could be the last time. This could be the last time I get a chance to put this on. And it was like $20, like $20. Like, if I don't get to use it, it's kind of like $20 down the drain. Like, I don't imagine myself using it if Liang Na's not in the UFC. So I did get a little bit emotional, but maybe she can pull it off. And like we were talking about earlier, maybe even if she does lose, why not sign her again? Why not give her another contract? She's exciting. I've never seen a boring Liang Na fight. Let's give her one more shot is what I'm thinking. But we have 12 fights to talk about. We're supposed to have like 4. I think we lost a couple fights, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We lost Jhonata versus Gabe Green, and
Oh,
we
that was a good one.
lost a pretty good fight. It was going to be Joel Alvarez versus the Polish kid Rumbeski.
Yeah.
So we lost that one. That was going to be definitely like a main card fight for this particular card. So we've lost those two fights. I don't know if Rumbeski is going to get a replacement. I don't know if Jhonata is going to get a replacement, but we're working with 12 at the moment.
All right, yeah, 12 fights. The majority of them are very good, and then we have Dontel Mays, Kyle Machado, which is gonna suck. But the majority of them are good. Weezy, me and you are coming off of a nice week at UFC 300, and we're looking to keep the ball rolling. Maybe start a win streak on this card, and it all starts with UFC Vegas 91. Let's hit up the chat before we get started. We got Mushroom, of course, first one in here. What is up, Mushroom? Good to see you. Good to see you. We got Elijah one in the chat. We got Carrillo in the building. What is up, Carrillo? We got Ryan the Ripper, Andrew G, Jeff K, Ice Viking, Pickle Kush. We got Justin Vallejos, Call of Duty Vlogs or Vogs, PG. Good to see everybody. Anthony is saying she's actually considering betting Liang Na. The girl she's fighting was losing scrambles to Luana Carolina. Yeah, if you put 5 units on Liang Na, you will be down 5 units.
5 units.
I did the math.
That math works out, yeah.
And I'm not the best at math. I know you are. 5 units on Liang Na, you would be up, or you'd be down 5 units.
Yeah, you'd be down 5 units, but theoretically, there is a chance to win 20. Yeah, if she were to dig that. But what the statistical fact is that you'll be down 5 units. That's one of the great Twitter bits that always works. When you just take an ass fighter with a wide line and set it up. If you bet, X units and on this fighter at plus 500, then yes, you will be out X units.
If you ask me if I'm betting Liang, I'd be like, nah. What's wrong with you? All right, guys. And yeah, nothing's wrong with the quarter unit to win what? A unit? Quarter unit to win a unit? Nothing wrong with that.
Quarter unit at plus 400, you got, and it's a plus money female. Anything happens. I mean, if there's anybody, Brady, that can get a first round meme armbar submission, I mean, are you counting Na Liang out of that pool of fighters? Certainly not. She comes out like a house of fire. So it's, quarter unit, nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. But all right, guys, before we get into it, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. We go live every Sunday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern time. We got a solid card, in my opinion, this week. And then next week, we have a pay-per-view card, UFC 301, Alexander Pantoja going against Steve Erceg. And it just feels weird saying out loud. Weezy, can you believe Steve Erceg is getting a title shot already?
Dude, the very first time I saw Steve Erceg's face, just not knowing he was a fighter, just saw the face, I said, that kid is going to be a star. I don't know in what, but he's going to be a star in something. And sure enough, Brady, 3 fights, 2 fights completed. His 3rd UFC fight is for a title in front of a raucous crowd in Brazil. He's going to be going from Australia to Brazil and fighting the great Alexander Pantoja. I mean, I didn't see it coming. I don't think I'm the only one, but Erceg's looked damn good in his 2 UFC performances thus far. We'll see. This is a big step up going from Schnell to Pantoja, man. I mean, I wish the kid all the luck in the world, because that is going to be a tough road to hoe, as they used to say.
Absolutely. All right, Weezy, let's get into this card then. I'm kind of upset that the first fight of the card isn't Liang Na, Ivana Petrovic, because that means I'll have to wear the wig for entire breakdown here. But we'll start with the first fight of the card, and this could change. But we got Gabriel Benitez going against Mahashate. We got Gabriel Benitez, 36 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. Mahashate, 24 years old, 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. Mahashate's 12 years younger, same height, same reach. Mahashate made his debut against Steve Garcia, won that fight by knockout. He lost to Rafa Garcia by decision and then got knocked out in the second round by Slava Borshev. As far as Gabriel Benitez, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. He had a knockout win against Justin James, a knockout loss against Billy Quarantillo, a knockout loss to David Onama, a knockout win against Charlie Ontiveros, and then a submission loss to Jim Miller. So I was looking through the record of Gabriel Benitez, and his last couple wins are rough, man. I mean, listen to these. Charlie Ontiveros,
The American bad boy.
I mean, I don't know what to say. Justin James, like that's a throwback. Justin James, Humberto Bandenay, 1-3 in his UFC fights, and then Jason Knight back in 2017. So yeah, hasn't been that great, but yeah, Machado, he's going to be much younger here. Both these guys are pretty solid strikers. I think these guys are going to stand and bang here. It's one of those fights where I kind of feel like it's going to play out closely, but it's hard to trust Benitez, man. He's 36 years old. Like I said, his wins are kind of ass lately. I kind of worry about the durability these days. So I kind of do like the younger Mahashati, but I feel like this could be, close and competitive up until maybe Mahashati lands a big shot and finishes Benitez. But Weezy, what are you thinking about the first fight of the card? It's actually a really good fight.
Yeah, this is a striker versus striker matchup. You got Mahashate attempting 1.3 takedowns per 15 minutes and getting 0 of them. And you got Gabriel Benitez over a 14-fight UFC sample size, Brady, averaging 0.2 takedowns per 15 minutes. So, yeah, we're looking at this one probably going to be taking place on the feet. 70% of Benitez's fights take place at distance, 71% for Mahashate. And since neither one of these guys really offensively wrestles much at all, I think we can count on this being your standard kickboxer in Benitez against a boxer in Mahashate. And Mahashate has some nice kicks that he mixes in as well. But Benitez is definitely more known for his kicks, even though, like Rusty said in the chat, we've heard it ad nauseum so many times about, at AKA them talking about Benitez being the hardest kicker in the room when he was there with Cain Velasquez and Rockhold and all these legends. But yeah, it never really kind of worked out at the UFC level for Gabby, 7-7, a solid record. He's got a couple submissions. He's got 3 KOs. But like you said, man, like when you go back and you look at the wins, it's like, oh man. I mean, you add up the records of the 7 guys that he's beaten, Brady, 12 wins and 26 losses, And with Mahashate, he's fought 3 good names so far. Steve Garcia, Rafa Garcia, and then Borshev. Those are 3 good fighters. So the key stats here, though, Brady, I mean, first of all, how you can't possibly ignore the fact that Mahashate is 12 years younger than Gabriel Benitez. I mean, that's something that just sticks out like a sore thumb. And just on that information alone, in terms of how that plays out over a long-term sample size, you're looking at 2/3 win percentage there on just that stat alone on the Mahashate side. But Gabriel Benitez got 22 more professional fights. He's got 11 more fights at the UFC level, and he's been training, with some of the best fighters in the world over a very long 14-fight UFC career that culminated with the Ultimate Fighter Latin America, which is where we saw Gabriel Benitez first. So I think it's going to be an interesting fight. You can't really count out that very dangerous submission game of Gabriel Benitez. I think it's very underrated. And Brady, when it's a kickboxer versus a boxer, I tend to favor the kickboxer. I see more weapons. I think, Mahashate being so good with his hands, he's got really nice hands, really piston-like straight right. It comes right down the pipe and is very powerful and fast and accurate. But, Benitez is going to be throwing those heavy body kicks, those heavy leg kicks. And he's a lot more experienced, and he's fought the better brand of competition over the long term. And he didn't look that bad against Jim Miller. A tough opponent, obviously, a legend in Jim Miller. I kind of remember thinking during the first 2 rounds of that fight, I'm like, I thought Benitez might be a little bit washed up, but it looked like he came to fight early in that one, and it was a pretty good fight. But yeah, man, I think I'm leaning a little bit here towards Mahashate, but the line, where's the line on this one? It's a little bit wide in favor of the young man here.
Yeah, it actually opened up a lot wider. So he opened up -300. He's currently -200. And Benitez opened up +250. He's currently +170. And somebody in the chat mentioned it, Weezy. I think Mahashate is actually 6 foot.
Is he really? I mean, because Let me see what it says on UFC stats.
I think UFC and
Oh,
EN10.
wow. So, yeah, it does say 6 feet. Did they change that? That's weird.
He's a big dude. So I think he's definitely a big dude. I remember him towering over Rafa Garcia.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely 6 feet. I got that completely wrong.
But he does have a 71-inch reach. That's right.
Yeah, that I don't know how that happened, but because like that's how it was in my database already. So I don't know if they changed his height and he was lying to begin with, but I'd like to think that that's the case because otherwise it was just a mistake on my end. But yeah, we fixed that on the sheet right now. So yeah, that's another advantage for Machado there.
I mean, you never make mistakes, so it had to be on their end.
It had to be everybody's fault but mine. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, Machado minus 200, Benitez plus 170. The over under set at 2.5 rounds. The over 2.5 is minus 105. The under 2.5 is minus 125. Lightweight fight here. Maybe the under, just kind of how I see it playing out. Both these guys, pretty dangerous. Both these guys, I mean, Machado's only been knocked out once by Slava, but Benitez has been finished like 7 times, 4 by knockout, getting older. So I kind of lean like a Machado knockout, but nothing I'm too confident, I would say. And I'm definitely not, minus 200. I'm not sure I like that either.
Yeah, this is going to be an attritional fight, like I said. And Benitez got a really nice guillotine. That's kind of like how he's defended takedowns over his career to keep fights standing. So yeah, I think this one could finish inside the distance, and I think it opened at a much better price at 2.5 rounds. So, but I don't think it stayed there for long.
Yeah. We got Dixon back in the building. What is up, Dixon? Let me know if any of these fighters have OnlyFans. I'm assuming Gabriel Benitez does not. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm assuming he does not. The Machado finish only. Yeah, I could see it. Probably around the money line. I think he's gonna Machado the bed. We got Cole. What is up, Cole? All right, Weezy. I say we move on to the main event, and it's weird it's weird to put the main event on the second fight of the prelims. Like I've not seen that before, but here we go. We have Ivana Petrovic going against my girl Liang Na. And I'm trying not to get choked up because this very well might be the last time we ever talk about her. But we got Ivana Petrovic. She is 5'8", 71-inch reach, 29 years old. Liang Na, she is 27, 5'8" with a 67-inch reach. Liang Na, 2 years younger, same height, and she's going to be at a 4-inch reach disadvantage. We have Petrovic, who is 4-1 her last 5 fights. She made her debut against Luana Carolina. Me and you both, Weezy, cashed on a Luana Carolina underdog ticket. And after cashing that ticket, I needed a shower. It felt dirty. Felt so dirty. Like, I think I lost several years off my life. But we hit it. We hit the bet, and it was nice. Now she's a massive favorite here. I think one of the biggest favorites on the card against Liang Na, who is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Her debut was against Ariane Carnelossi. Lost that fight by second round knockout. First round knockout loss to Silvana Gomez Juarez, and then a second round knockout loss to JJ Aldridge. So Weezy, I've been a fan of Liang Na for a couple years. It all started with that fight against Ariane Carnelossi. It was the first fight ever back with fans. They were the first fight of the card, and Liang Na set the tone, man. She came out there like a bat out of hell. I think she dropped Carnelossi with the first punch she landed. Yeah. And it was just a crazy, back and forth. It felt like the round took 15 minutes because there's so much going on. And then at the end of the first round, she was spent. Song Yadong had to pick her up, take her to the corner. And I thought she wasn't going to get off the stool, but she did. And then she came out in the second round and pretty much died. And then she got knocked out by Silvana Gomez Juarez. And then she got finished by JJ Aldrich, which I think that's very impressive. I mean, getting finished by JJ Aldrich like that takes, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to get finished by JJ Aldrich, who I don't think had a finish since like 2014 up until then. So shout out to Liang Na for that. And Weezy, I did it on the last show. And since this is probably Liang Na's last fight, I did do another song that I would like to play on this show here. So here we go. Without further ado, this is called Hey There, Liang Na. And here we go. Here we go. And with a wig like this, I feel like I'm like the lead singer of the Plain White Tees. Hey there, Liang Na, what's it like in Shanghai City? I'm 1,000 miles away, but girl, tonight you look so pretty. Yes, you do. The UFC apex can't shine as bright as you. I swear it's true. Hey there, Liang Na, don't you worry about the distance. I'm right there if you get lonely. Give this song another listen. Close your eyes. Listen to my voice, it's my disguise. I'm by your side. And oh, it's what you do to me. Oh, you catch the fight, won't start round 3. Oh, it's what you do to me. Oh, this fight ain't going all 3. It's what you do to me. 1,000 miles seems pretty far, but they've got planes and trains and cars. I'd walk to you if I'd have no other way. Our friends would all make fun of us and we'll just laugh along because we know that none of them have ever felt this way. Liang Na, I promise you that by the time that we get through, the world may never ever be the same. And you're to blame. That's it.
Yeah, Brady, I'm of Greek descent, and the Greeks have some of the greatest mythology, some of the greatest stories in the world. They're stories that have been copied over and over again through different cultures down throughout time. And one of them was the face that launched 1,000 ships. It was Helen of Troy. She was considered to be the most beautiful woman in the world, and her husband, a man named Agamemnon, a great Greek name, right? He was a real prick, and he was very protective. He was very protective of the face that launched 1,000 ships. But when you got a woman that beautiful and that talented in Liang Na, it's gonna spark the kind of creativity, the kind of passion that you just showed singing that beautiful song about this beautiful fighter. And now we get to break down this fight right here, Pub Sports Radio, Stat Diggers. This is why you all tune in, everybody, and this is it. This is the main event where we're actually signing off after this fight. You guys can figure out the rest of this shit.
100%. I mean, why continue the show after this? Ice Viking asking, is my wife jealous? Maybe. This is what she said to me whenever I posted this a couple weeks ago. She said, and I quote, "What is up with you and that bitch?" How dare her? How dare her? She's like, "What is up with you and that bitch?" First of all, she's not a bitch. But I thought that was funny.
It is funny.
Gosh. Where were we? Let's
where were we? What are we doing?
Let's see. There we go. Gosh. Okay. Anyway, with all that said, Ivana Petrovic is going to finish Liang Na in probably the first or second round. But Liang Na, she actually did some good things in the Aldrich fight. She got a couple takedowns. She was very close to getting the back of Aldrich, but Liang Na submission over position. She ended up on bottom, but I thought she showed some improvements. But that's still, we kind of talked about it before the show. She's like a Herbert Burns, a Daniel Lacerda in terms of just she can't battle any adversity whatsoever. When the going gets tough, she literally looks for a way out. She looks for the door. And I think that's probably what's going to happen here. I'm going to be rooting for her, and I'm going to be cashing my 4th under in a row with her. But other than that, I think, you can't lay minus 500 on Ivana Petrovic. like that's wild. But at the same time, I really struggled to put any money down on Liang Na outside of, like I said, that under or the fight won't start round 3, which is I'm taking a look at.
Yeah, I mean, minus 500, maybe even minus 550 at this point, Brady. It's that makes it almost unbettable because, I mean, like, the reality is, if we're not kidding ourselves here, I mean, Ivana is going to beat 7 shades of shit out of this woman on the ground when she gets on top. And when you look at the stats for Ivana, you see 6 wins, 1 of them by decision, but 3 knockouts and 2 submissions. You're like, okay, she's got some power. Not really. All those knockouts are ground and pound knockouts. I mean, she's very violent when she gets on top. And like you mentioned during the breakdown, is that now Liang goes submission over position constantly and gets reversed constantly, gives up position, is just a little bit sloppy on the ground because she's so because she's so aggressive. And, and I mentioned it and he had a good laugh that, she just doesn't look comfortable fighting at all. It looks like from the second the referee says fight, she's looking for a way out. And the way that fighters like that fight is they just go balls out for the finish for like 90 seconds, like a Bob Sapp back in Pride, and then if the finish doesn't present itself, they adrenaline dump because they're not comfortable fighting. They're not comfortable being in there. And then once they adrenaline dump and you lose all your energy, you have no chance to win a fight at this level. So yeah, I'm calling Petrovic second round knockout here. But Na is 2 years younger and she's got 19 more professional fights, 2 more fights at the UFC level. And if there's anybody that's capable of a meme armbar from guard submission in the first round, it's Na Liang. So, tread lightly if you're on the Petrovic side. But I think that Ivana is going to get this fight to the ground. And then once Na starts to tire out, the ground and pound, the top pressure, the submission attempts, I think the finish probably presents itself in the second round, maybe the third. But yeah, I think this should be Petrovic.
Yep, I agree with that. And yeah, she's actually money. Wow, money came in on Liang Na, Weezy. Petrovic is now minus 450, and Liang Na is plus 350. So I don't know if my song had anything to do with it, but it probably did. But yeah, Petrovic opened up minus 425, went all the way down to minus 500. She's now minus 450. Liang Na opened up plus 325. She is currently plus 350. The over-under set at 1.5 rounds. The over 1.5 is minus 120. The under 1.5 is minus 110. And yeah, I think everybody should bet the over so I can get a plus money under.
Yeah, we both are going to promote the over until we get a plus money under, and then we are going to smash that under and say it was line movement. We weren't lying on Stat Diggers. So yeah, please bet that over. Please let Brady and I get a nice number on violence in this fight because yeah, it's a Na Liang fight and it's going to finish inside the distance.
Yeah, it's going over. So yeah, some fun facts. 23 out of 26 fights for Liang Na have finished under 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy, man. 26 fights, and that meant 6 of 7 losses inside the distance, 19 of 19 wins inside the distance. I mean, you want to talk about a killer be killed fighter? It's Na Liang.
Yep, and 25 out of 26 fights have ended before the third round. The one that did go to the third round went the distance. It was the very handsome, the suspended Aiyah Shakurova.
Yeah, dude, what did she test positive for? She's been out for like 2 years.
She tested positive for being too handsome.
Oh, well, with a jawline like that and that great haircut, I mean, I think she goes to Zhalgas Zhumagulov's barber. I don't think there are a lot of barbers in the Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan area that give like different haircuts, because it seems like everybody just sees the same barber.
Yeah. I think you're onto something there. So yeah, we'll see where this like the under 2.5. Sorry, I just got like a big jump scare. I looked up Aiyah Shakurova and just big jump scare there. I apologize to the audience. Holy crap. What the heck is that?
Is that Magomed Mustafayev in drag?
That is terrifying. So that's why they suspended her. Wow. I am
That's
sorry.
grounds for a lifetime ban.
Holy crap. When was the last time she fought? Wasn't it against Murphy?
Yeah, I mean, she got Lauren Murphy, who's like a veteran and a top 10 fighter. I think she probably what happened was she might have taken the Murphy fight on short notice, maybe.
Yeah, and she lost that fight by rear naked choke, and that was in 2020, and we still haven't seen her since.
Oh my God. Yeah, dude, she must have been like on a steroid cycle and just pumping up at that point when she took the fight.
Wow. But
Jesus Christ, look at that. It's terrifying. My
oh
God, man.
Oh
I
my
remember
God.
that it's going to be like when I saw The Omen when I was 8 years old. Absolutely terrifying. My God.
Like, I don't even know what that is. Like, we've seen Terrifying, and then we've seen that. So,
well, it looks like you can always get a Aiyah Shakurova wig if Liang Na doesn't get re-upped after this loss. So that could be a good one. Or you could just dye that one black.
With a wig like that, I'd probably get divorced. So I don't want to deal with the divorce.
It certainly could be
at the moment. So there you have it. There was your main event for UFC Vegas 91. It's a good card. Looking forward to going to kick it to Weezy. Fun show. We did it.
Yes.
Any final thoughts on the entire card?
No, I mean, it would be awesome if Leon could find a finish here, but you can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. We're going to be bringing back probability. We've got all the stats ready. Find me right here on Pub Sports Radio every Sunday for Stat Diggers, every Wednesday for the DFS show, every Saturday for the live watch along. God bless each and every one of you guys. We've had a great week here on Stat Diggers. It's been a blast. It's been a blast. Thank you, guys. It's good to hang out.
Oh, my gosh. What if I just literally stopped the show and that was that? That'd be hilarious. That would be hilarious. Oh, my gosh. I look like Shakurova right now. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. It's going to be hard to top all that, but who else we got Marnic Mann to talk about, so I guess that's fun. Marnic Mann going against Ketlen Souza. We got Marnic Mann, who is 31 years old, 5 foot with a 64-inch reach. Ketlen Souza, 28 years old, 5 foot with a 63-inch reach. We got Souza 3 years younger, same height, and then it's going to be Marnic Mann with a 1-inch reach advantage. Marnic Mann is 3-2 her last 5 fights. She had a knockout loss against Bruna Brazil on the Contender Series, and then she lost to Josephine Knudsen on her debut and then lost that fight by decision. As far as Ketlen Souza, she took on Karine Silva, lost that fight by first round submission. So the first thing I looked at in this fight, Weezy, I saw that Marnic Mann was fighting, and I'm like, okay, Marnic Mann's fighting. What I'm looking for, and I like to look for certain things when taping fighters. What I looked for in Ketlen Souza was like, does she have a pulse? And I'm like, okay, if she has a pulse, I think she probably beats Marnic Mann. And after doing a good amount of tape study, I watched every single fight possible. I think she has a pulse. And for that reason, I think I'm going to have to side with her. But for real, she kind of reminds me a little bit of like Jessica Andrade. She kind of looks like Andrade. She's going to come forward the entire time. She's very aggressive. Her ground game is extremely questionable, and I guess Marnic Mann could potentially take advantage of that. But yeah, I like the forward pressure, the striking. I think she's getting better. I think the takedown defense is getting better as well. And she followed me on Instagram. It was the most random thing ever, but she followed me on Instagram, it's kind of weird, but it happened. So I'm picking against Marnic Mann here. But Ketlen Souza is a pretty big favorite. I think she's like minus 325 now. She was minus 350, but I just struggled to pick Marnic Mann to win a fight. In theory, though, like the path is there for Mann if she can get takedowns. But even then, I was watching some of Mann's fights outside the UFC, and she's getting takedowns, but she's getting reversed so easily. Like, I don't know. I'm just not sure Marnic Mann's UFC caliber. She's very, very small. So yeah, I like Ketlen Souza here, but I don't like her at minus 325. That's for sure.
Yeah, dude. I just found an error in the coding. I've got everybody's going to be the same height because I had Marnic Mann and Ketlen Souza at 5 feet. Thanks to Jeff in the chat for mentioning that. So yeah, I'm drawing the same cell for each fighter, so I have to change that in the coding. But yeah, this one, I mean, if you lay minus 350 on Ketlen Souza, you're probably not very good at this. That's my
Weezy. I laid minus 350. So what does that make me?
You did not lay minus 350. We DM back and forth all the time, you guys. And I'll tell you something, like every once in a while, I'll have a bet, that Brady's like, cool, I'm not joining you on that one, and I could tell when he does that, because he'll be like, well, good luck with that. He'll be like, good luck with that bet. That's his nice way of saying, yeah, I'm not going to be with you there. And yeah, and if you bet, minus 350 on Ketlin Souza, I wouldn't say, yeah, good luck with that. I'd be like, dude, did you get a fucking head injury? Because this is not the kind of fighter that you lay minus 350 on. She just kind of moves laterally around the cage. She throws a lot of volume. She's kind of accurate, not particularly powerful, but the cardio's there. The toughness is there. She's going to be there for the full 3 rounds, fighting, scrapping. But I think she kind of needs distance. That's what I kind of saw from Ketlin, is that she's going to try to stay at range and kind of try to outpoint you. And I actually put a small bet on her to win against Karine Silva in the debut at like a quarter unit at like plus 550. And that one went out the window quick. As soon as I saw her get taken down, I was like, oh boy, this probably won't end well. And it didn't. Karine Silva hurts people. But that's a knee injury that she had to come back from. And like I said, Ketlin Souza is not the kind of girl that you just go out there laying a bunch minus 350 on. She doesn't have a lot of recognizable wins, but with Marnic Mann, you got a really undersized fighter here that also doesn't have a lot of great wins, but a good win over a veteran in Amber Brown and Kelsey Arneson as well. Even the Macias fight, it's a recognizable name. So I think like this is kind of like a dog or pass situation here, because the losses for Marnic Mann that we saw recently, well, I mean, really the only losses are pro to Bruna Brasil, who was probably 7 inches taller than her, and just much longer and a much better kickboxer. That was a really bad stylistic matchup for her. But and then Josephine Knudsen, who I am personally very high on. I think that she's a phenomenal fighter and very underrated. I think she will be top 10 in the division as she gets older and more experienced and gets a few more fights under her belt. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is dog or pass here, but I'm not running the window to get units on Marnic Mann here. It might be one of those things where it's kind of like a plus EV bet that doesn't cash, because Souza just kind of picks her apart from a distance and wins a decision. But I don't know, man. You going to have any money on this one, Brady?
No, not at all. Like, I feel like it could be close because Mann has a path here, I think, with the takedown. Like, Souza's ground game, I think, is a huge liability. But, damage over control. I do like the striking of Souza a little bit better. But, yeah, laying minus 325 on Souza, just not smart. And actually was considering betting Marnic Mann until I kind of watched some of her fights, and I wasn't all that impressed. Like, she was getting reversed, and I don't know. So I'm probably going to stay away, but I'm with you in terms of it's a dog or pass, but it's more so like a pass or pass for me. The over under set at 2.5 rounds, the over 2.5 minus 275, the under 2.5 is plus 200. Souza's been finished in all 4 of her losses, and Marnic Mann's been finished in 1 of her 2, almost both. Knudsen was like very close to finishing her. But if you do bet an under, you'll have to rely on one of these 2 fighters finishing the other. And that's probably also something I don't want to do. See, I don't see myself really putting any money on this fight.
I think that that's a great idea, Brady. There's definitely no harm in passing, especially on a fight like this. And I think that's probably what I'll be doing as well.
Yep, nothing wrong with yeah. That's one of the first fights I taped because I saw Ketlin Souza was minus like 350. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, it is Marnic Mann. So we'll see. It's a fight that I don't think I'll have my money on though. Speaking of not having my money on a fight, we have Don'Tale Mayes going against Caio Machado. We got Don'Tale Mayes, 32 years old, 6'6" with an 81-inch reach. 81-inch reach. We got Caio Machado, 29 years old, 6'4" with a 78-inch reach. Machado is going to be 3 years younger. He's going to be at a 2-inch height disadvantage and a 3-inch reach disadvantage. Don'Tale Mayes is 2-1 no contest. His last 5 fights had a knockout win against Josh Parisian, a no contest against Hamdi Abdulwahab, a decision loss against Augusto Sakai, knockout win against Andre Arlovsky, and then a decision loss against Rodrigo Nascimento. As far as Kyle Machado, he is 4-1 his last 5 fights. He had that terrible fight on the Contender Series against Kevin Saflarski, probably the worst fight I've ever seen, but it was more so because Saflarski didn't really show up, but I guess a solid win there. And then he makes his debut against Mick Parkin and loses that fight, but I think his stock kind of rose because he was able to outstrike Mick Parkin over the duration of the fight, but he was getting taken down. And yeah, I mean, this is a line that has flipped. Machado was a underdog like a week or even a couple days ago, and by the time I got around to taping it, he's like -110 best price, and I was kind of tempted. I had my finger over the trigger in terms of betting it because I think it's a solid matchup for Machado in terms of like he's fighting Dontel Mays, and on the feet, I actually like the striking of Kyle Machado. He's very active on the feet. He's quick for a heavyweight, has zero power, but the volume's there, the pace is there, decent cardio as well. I guess the one thing that kind of worries me, and maybe I shouldn't be worried, but maybe I should be. It's the ground game of Machado, like the takedown defense. We saw Mick Parkin be able to take him down very easily, be able to control him. And I think Machado is a black belt for what it's worth, but yeah, we saw that he could be taken down, controlled a little bit. And Dontel Mays, although he doesn't do it often, he does have that in his back pocket. We saw him go out there and look like Khabib against Josh Parisian, but again, that's Josh Parisian. So I kind of like Machado here. It's just I missed the line, and at this point, I don't really see myself laying -130 or whatever on Kyle Machado, but I lean towards him. I think he's going to be the more active fighter, the faster fighter as well, and probably goes out there and wins a decision. But it could be greasy, especially if D1 Dontel Mays shows up. Yeah, I like Machado here, but not at the price.
Yeah, I DM'd Brady about 6 or 7 days ago, right after UFC 300, and I was like, dude, Kyle Machado's plus 135 right now to Dontel Mays. And Brady responded back, why the fuck are you messaging me on a week off? Like, he's like, you gotta go away, dude,
Monday. Yeah.
It was just like, and I kind of felt that, I said to myself, that number is really interesting. I've got to take that fight, but we very rarely get time off, and I just had to take advantage. And by the time I looked into it, like you said, Brady, it was already gone, and that was unfortunate. But yeah, I'm one of these guys that I bet Mick Parkin against Machado and laid some juice. And even when I did that, I said to myself, this guy Machado is not bad. He was fighting in BFL, Battlefield Fight League in Canada, a Brazilian guy who trains in Canada. And, he's fighting some low-level competition up there. But, his takedown defense was solid on the regional scene. He even stuffed 7 takedowns against Parkin, so that's not bad. But he's kind of an undersized heavyweight here, and Dontel Mays is huge. I mean, that's one thing that you always have to worry about with Mays is 6'6" and 81-inch reach. He's a legit heavyweight with a legit frame. Not one of these fat asses that could be making 185. I mean, Dontel Mays is not making 205 at 6'6", so he's a true heavyweight here. So he's gonna have the size advantage. He's going to have the experience advantage, especially the high-level experience advantage. And Dontel is pretty good everywhere. He's the one who injured John Jones, Brady. We all saw that. John Jones is not fighting right now because Dontel Mays whooped his sorry ass, and now he gets, Kyle Machado. You're getting him at plus money. On that information alone, we should be running to the window to bet Dontel Mays. But hold up. Not so fast, Brady. This guy kind of stinks, doesn't he? What I mean? Oh, yeah. God. I mean, he's like, you could time the overhand right on a sundial. The guy looks like he's on cough syrup constantly. I mean, if you even look at like the Tapology homepage, the picture looks like he's sleeping, and I think I could beat him in a foot race. And I can't beat anybody in a foot race. I'm not fast. I never was. I was never a speed guy, more of a power guy, So yeah, this is a weird fight, but if Mays is not able to get this fight to the ground, I think Machado is going to be throwing more volume on the feet. He's probably going to be a little bit more accurate. And he's probably going to be a little bit more defensively responsible, throwing to a lot more targets. But, with Mays, you got that size. You have that experience advantage. He's fought the tougher guys. So it's an interesting fight. I think Kyle Machado at plus 135 would have been a great bet. At minus 135, nah, man, I'm not laying juice on Kyle Machado in this spot. I think that this could actually be kind of close. I think Don'Tale Mayes catches a ton of shit for the Hamdi Abdelwahab fight, but Abdelwahab got suspended for 2 years for the amount of steroids that he was on in that fight, and you could kind of see it. Like, he was recovering a lot faster. You're like, how the fuck is this fat ass still wrestling in the 3rd round against a fucking giant like Mays? Well, it turns out he was on all the steroids for that fight. So, and Mays still could have won that fight. It's just that he got taken down by an Olympic wrestler and held down and lost so many minutes on the ground, he wasn't able to make up for it with his distance striking, even though he almost got him out of there in the 2nd round. So, yeah, man, I think that this line is pretty close to where it should be right now, and I think I'll be staying away from.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I had a bet on Nascimento against Mays, and it was like close, but at the same time it wasn't. Like, you look at the stats, like they were like dead even. But just Mays was not reacting to shots well. Like, it looked like he was getting hurt a lot, but that was a lot sweatier than I anticipated to be that Nascimento Mays fight. It was very, very sweaty there. So yeah, maybe we're underrating Mays. Maybe he's a little bit better than we kind of think he is, but still, I was impressed with Kyle Machado. But again, my worry is if Mays does come out here, D1 Mays, and goes out there and just shoots a ton of takedowns, uses that size, because he's a big giant heavyweight, and he's 6'4", but he seems kind of small.
Yeah, I don't know if he's quite 6'4". That might be a little bit generous there. And, and both of these guys are coming off of performances where they lost, but they outperformed the number that the betting markets put on them. Because when I parlayed up Parkin against Machado, I think I paid like minus 220, Brady. And after that fight ended, I was like, well, that was a horse shit bet. I mean, it cashed, but it was not a good bet. He didn't look minus 220. And I don't know if, Nascimento looked whatever he was against Mays either.
Yeah, agreed. Who's the hot chick? I think you're referring to either Liang Na or Aiyah Shakurova. They're both very, very hot. He's going to be 2 times speed compared to May. Yeah, maybe 3 times speed. I mean, Mays looks like he's fighting in slow motion. It's actually quite interesting to watch.
The slowest human being I have ever seen on a body that looks like he should be like light. I mean, like, Mays is a specimen. And yeah. I mean, like, it's shocking that he's as slow as he is.
That wig had Brady sweating like he was an NBA mascot during a halftime show. That's the truth. It's actually very, very hot in here right now. I don't know why the heat's up so high. I might have to go turn that down. All right, Weezy, enough with this shit fight. Let's move on to another shit fight, huh? We got Austen Hubbard going against Michael Figlak. We got Hubbard, 32 years old, 5'10" with a 71-inch reach. Figlak, he's 27 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. Figlak, 5 years younger, same height, and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Austen Hubbard, he's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Dakota Bush, a decision loss to Vince Pichel. He got cut. He was on the Ultimate Fighter, and then he comes back and loses to Kurt Holloway by 2nd round submission. As far as Figlak, makes his debut against Fares Ziam, loses that fight by decision. I told you before the show, like, this feels like the most Apex fight possible. Like, this has Apex written all over it. It's probably a dogger pass for me. I just was not impressed with Figlak's debut, and I get it. I think he's a lot better than he showed against Fares Ziam, but he made Fares Ziam look like Bo Nickel out there. I mean, Fares Ziam, the kickboxer, was taking him down, was out scrambling him, was reversing him, was putting him in bad spots. Like I said, like, took him down like 4 or 5 times. Like, it was kind of hard to watch. So yeah, I think Figlak is a lot better than he showed. I think he is a solid striker. I think he's a solid, well-rounded fighter, but Getting out wrestled by Farazim's not the best look. And Austen Hubbard, although he doesn't do it a ton, he does have some wrestling in his back pocket. I think he's a brown belt or black belt in BJJ. So I think this is just gonna be a close fight. Austen Hubbard, he's fought some very good competition. He's a very experienced fighter, decent everywhere. I think it's a 50-50 fight, and the line doesn't really reflect that. Figlak's a decent-sized favorite, I think. So this is a fight I just don't see myself betting on, but if I did, it'd be on the dog in Austen Hubbard. But it's tough to be confident either side here, I'd say. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here? Probably the worst fight on the card.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're going to lay juice on Figlak, I would just say don't do it. I mean, the guy's on almost a 2-year layoff, Brady. Almost 2 years, dude. 1 year and 7 months. Now, you got to always – that's always a caveat, because a 1 year and 7 month layoff is much different when you start that layoff at 26 years of age than it is if you were to start it at 36, let's say. But yeah, Figlak's still only 27 years old. So he's 5 years younger than Austen Hubbard, but that's about where the advantages, go out the window for Figlak, because Austin's the much more experienced fighter. He's got 13 more professional fights. He's got 7 more fights at the UFC level. Austin's got excellent conditioning. He's a very durable guy. He's never been knocked out. He has been submitted, but he's never been knocked out. And, Austen is not spectacular anywhere, but he's not deficient anywhere either. Durable, tough, great conditioning. He hits hard on the feet. He's got good wrestling, and he can stop some takedowns and win some minutes in control time positions as well. So, I think that Austin's a decent dog spot here. You got Figlak coming off this super long layoff and really a very underwhelming performance. Like you said, man, Faraz is a K1 champion. A wrestler, he's getting way better at MMA, and Ziam's still young and adding to his skill set, and he's definitely getting better. And that was really a phenomenal performance by Perez. So I think that really caught Michael off guard, and it was a UFC debut. So maybe he had some nerves. Maybe there was a bit of an adrenaline dump, but still there's a lot of questions on this kid. He got out wrestled by Faraz Ziam. He's on a 1 year and 7 month layoff. He's had a massive experience a disadvantage here, not only overall as a pro, but at the UFC level. And Austen Hubbard has fought the much better brand of competition. You look at guys like Vince Pichel on his record, Mark Madsen, Davey Ramos, Kurt Halabaugh, while Figlak is, getting his ass shaved by Ziam. And then the names on his record are Agi Sardari, Stevie McIntosh, Kieran Lister, Stephen Hooper. Who? So, yeah, man, I don't understand the line. I haven't gotten to a Hubbard bet yet, but I think he's going to be there with this dude. I think that this is going to be a pretty close fight. These guys are pretty well matched. And like you said, the best one sentence sum up of this fight is that it's the most apex fight that you could possibly think of.
Yeah, if I was a matchmaker and I was like, let me put together an apex fight, Austen Hubbard comes to mind instantly. Austen Hubbard, and then throw Figlak in there with him as well. So yeah, I'm with you. Like it's hard. It's hard. It's one of those things where it's a dog or pass, but it's just hard clicking Austen Hubbard. Just hard. It's hard to click it for some reason. But Figlak, he opened at -130. He's currently -155. Austen Hubbard opened up +110. He's currently +130. You guessed it. The over is completely juiced. -275 for an over in a lightweight fight. You don't see that too often, Weezy.
Yeah, that's a big number. They're telling you about 74% chance that this one goes over 2.5 rounds, when really that's about 70% of the fights that, or I'm sorry, like a little over 50% of the fights that go over that number. So yeah, man, that's a lot to lay. And like I say, 1 year and 7 months of layoff for Figlak is something you got to keep in the back of your mind here.
Absolutely. We got Nunya in the building. DFS and Uncle Weezy. What is up, Nunya?
That's all.
Yeah, this is kind of hurting my head. Would you rather fight one Brendan Schaub-sized Alex Perez, okay, or two Alex Perez-sized Brendan Schaubs?
One, I would rather fight a Brendan Schaub-sized Alex Perez, because Alex Perez has been finished in most of his fights, right?
And he might not even show up.
Yeah. Yeah. You might just not even have to fight. But Brendan Schaub had really good jiu-jitsu for a big guy. So now if you make him smaller and more flexible and lighter and a little more dynamic, I think that'd be a bad fight for a lot of people. So I think I'd rather go with the Brendan Schaub-sized Alex Perez as an opponent, personally.
And just hope he doesn't show up.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm losing either one of those fights, Brady, you know, but one of them I got a lot better chance of not having to show up for.
Yeah. Both of these guys are so average at everything. Austen Hubbard is like the definition of average, which is not a bad thing. Like he's average everywhere. He's average everywhere. He's decent.
But he's above average conditioning. That's, I think, important to mention. I mean, that's a great skill to have.
And durability outside of getting subbed by Hollabaugh subbed him. Somebody else subbed him, didn't they?
Was it Davey Ramos?
Joe Selecki.
Selecki got on his back. That's right. Selecki backpacked him and then rear naked choked him.
He actually went the distance. He went the distance with Ramos, and that was impressive back in 2019.
Yeah, and then that Mark Madsen fight was a classic. That was a great fight.
Yep. 100%. We got Kyle Marley in the building. What is up,
Kyle?
Glad to be back. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. We have a really weird fight here. We got Rani Aiyah going against Victor Henry. Weezy, you have Rani Aiyah at 39. He's actually 59, right?
I think 56. And remember, that is a Brazilian birth certificate there. Dude, I remember seeing Rani Aiyah fight back in the 80s. You know, like it was this guy's been around forever.
I mean, it's hard to believe he's 39 because he looks like 70. So we'll believe him though. We'll go with 39 for Rani Aiyah. 5'6" with a 67-inch reach. Victor Henry, 36 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. Victor Henry is 30 years younger than Aiyah. He's going to be at a 1-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Rani Aiyah is 2-1 draw his last 5 fights, a decision loss to Ricky Simone, a draw against Barzola, submission win against Ray Rodriguez, a decision win against Hung Ho Kong, and then a knockout loss against Montel Jackson. As far as Victor Henry, a 3-1 and 1-0 contest his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Hani Barcelos, won that fight by decision as a massive underdog. Lost to Rafael Assunção as a pretty big favorite. He beat Tony Gravely by decision, then had the no contest against Javi Basharat. So I believe that Victor Henry is tied for the biggest favorite on the card right now with Petrovic. No, he's actually currently the biggest favorite. He's minus 500. Rani Aiyah is plus 375. And yeah, I think it's a good matchup for Victor Henry here. You know, Henry is going to be much younger. Henry's going to have the much better cardio. Henry's never been finished in his entire career. Henry has good takedown defense, good get-up game, good jiu-jitsu. So yeah, he should be able to keep this fight standing. What I would like to see Henry do is kind of push a pace, but I have a feeling this could be like a slower paced fight, kind of like the Assunção fight. And then I was also thinking maybe like an under here, but it was crazy. Rani Aiyah has been finished only once since like 2008. It's ridiculous how durable Rani Aiyah is. So I'm kind of thinking like a decision for Victor Henry, maybe like a round 3 decision, but I think he's the rightful favorite. It's, you know, I think if Aiyah wins this fight, it's going to have to get takedowns, maybe get a finish, and I don't think that's all that likely. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight? Victor Henry, the biggest favorite on the card.
Yeah, dude, has there been a Victor Henry fight where somebody hasn't been a minus 400 favorite yet? I mean, it's every goddamn time. I mean, he was a huge underdog at Barcelos. Then he beats Barcelos and is a huge favorite against Assunção and blows it. Then there's the Gravely fight. Basharat was like a minus 400 favorite against him, which was ridiculous. I had a bet on Henry. And if his nuts hadn't been used for a speed bag there, I think that would have wound up being a really close fight. But Victor's got to keep this standing, and he's a very good grappler. Victor's 8-0 to the submission. But the one fight that worries me is that Denis Lavrentev fight. Now, they've fought twice. The second time, Lavrentev beat him, got takedowns. And Rani Aiyah is a tricky opponent. You know, he's not the best wrestler, but because of the jiu-jitsu threat, oftentimes he can just kind of create scrambles and then wind up in advantageous positions. And once he gets there, Brady, he stays there. He's a really phenomenal guy at finding control time positions and winning those control time positions. And if you get him on his back, he'll stay there. He'll play Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's his game, man. He's got 28 wins as a pro, and 21 of them are by submission. He's got 0 knockouts. And the decision wins, like against Kyung Ho Kong, for instance, is just him getting takedowns and top control. And before the Kyung Ho Kong fight, Aiyah had probably one of the most padded schedules in the history of the UFC, at least in terms of his wins. If you look at this number right here that I have highlighted on the screen under the SOS stats, strength of schedule, is the strength of schedule of his wins. You add up all 11 of those wins, and those opponents have a combined record of 23-39 at the UFC level. And if you take the Kyung Ho Kong fight out of there, who's 7-3, you're talking about guys with 16-36 record, are the bums that Aiyah is beaten, but he's losing to guys with a 19-14 record, winning record guys. And Victor Henry's not that much younger. Victor Henry's 37 years old. He's turning 37 on May 4th. So, Aiyah is not that much younger, and he is a phenomenal grappler. And over a sample size of 17 UFC fights since the year 2013, this guy's fights are in control time positions about 70% of the time. So if he can drag Victor into his fight, he's going to have a chance here. He's probably going to, I would be interested to see in Aiyah by decision or Aiyah plus 3.5 points handicap, because I think he can get a takedown. I think he can win a round here. And he's such a good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner who finds his way into so many control time positions and grappling positions where he stays safe, that I could see this fight going the distance and being kind of close if Aiyah is able to out-grapple Victor Henry. But if this stays on the feet, Victor's just going to drown him in volume. He's going to be faster. He's going to be way busier, a lot more powerful, and just way more dangerous at range. And the longer that the fight does stay at distance, the conditioning of Victor Henry, which is phenomenal, is going to be a real problem for the potentially 63-year-old Aiyah, who Kiwi Brew said that Aiyah fought Methuselah in Nazareth Fight Club. I mean, that was a long time ago, Brady, so the wheels might be coming off. The wheels might finally be coming off for Aiyah here, but this line is just, it's wide. It's getting me to want to take a shot on Yaya, but that's kind of like what I'm trying not to do this year, is take high value bets on guys that are most likely going to lose. But Yaya by decision is going to be something I'm going to keep in the back of my mind, and it might be like a quarter unit bet this week at the right price.
Yeah, Henry opened up, believe it or not, minus 750. He's
wow.
Now minus 500, and then Rani opened up plus 450. He's now plus 375. And then the over-unders at about a pick'em, over 2.5 minus 115, under 2.5 minus 115. And like I said, what I thought was pretty interesting was up until the Montel Jackson fight, the last time that Yaya was finished was back against Joseph Benavidez, aka Josiane Nunez, back in 2009. So like 15 years ago. So he's durable. He's very durable. So I'm kind of leaning like this fight goes to decision. And the over 2.5 at a pick'em, I don't think is terrible.
Yeah, Montel Jackson is an absolute stud, so there's no shame in getting finished by that dude. But Victor Henry is definitely a step down from Montel.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy how close these guys actually are in terms of their age. It doesn't feel that way. It feels like there's like a 15-year gap, but it's only like 3.
It took Victor a long time to get his shot in the UFC, but he's one of these guys that was one of the top regional scene fighters, and he was fighting all over the world. So, yeah, Victor came in UFC ready, and he's shown it in his fights that he is that.
Yeah, so Ronnie Aiyah was supposed to fight Cody Garbrandt 2 different times. He pulled out of both. One was with like a neck injury, and then the other was just withdrew as well. And then he withdrew from another fight recently. He withdrew against Alatang Lee back in last year, sometime last year, like October.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting up there. I mean, if we're going to believe that Hani Yaya is 40, then like according to my stats, he took his first pro fight 3 days after he turned 18.
Wow.
So that actually might be correct.
That's crazy. Yeah, his debut was back in 1999. Well, no, that was grappling match. It was 2002.
Yeah, my God, man, 21 years ago.
Oof, crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right, well, let's keep moving on to the next fight. We have Tim Means going against Uroš Medić. We got Tim Means, who is 40 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. Medić, he is 30 years old, 6'1" with a 71-inch reach. Uroš Medić is 10 years younger, 1-inch height disadvantage and a 4-inch reach disadvantage. Tim Means is 2-3 his last 5 fights. Decision win against Nicholas Dalby. Submission loss against Kevin Holland. Decision loss against Max Griffin. Submission loss against Alex Morono. And then a knockout win against Andre Fiallo. As far as Medić, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He went out there on the, I think it was his debut against Alon Cruz. Won that fight by first round knockout. Went back and watched that fight the other day, and that was one of the worst stoppages I've ever seen. Like, the announcers were going crazy for like a minute. They were like, "This fight's over. This fight's over," and then it kept going. "This fight's over. This fight's over, John. This fight's over." And then I don't know the ref, maybe Mark Smith, but it was a terrible stoppage. It felt bad for Alon Cruz. He gets submitted by Jalen Turner. He knocks out Omar Morales, which was very impressive. Morales is a tough dude. Knocks out Matthew Semmelsberger, and then he loses to My Titty Back Oralbaugh by second round submission. So, Uroš Medić has never been the distance in 11 professional fights. I think this fight's going to be a banger. Uroš Medić clearly has a hole in his game. We saw Jalen Turner take him down and sub him. We saw My Titty Back go out there and just dominate him on the mat. Is Tim Means maybe going to go out here and maybe try to wrestle? But yeah, on the feet, I worry about Tim Means at this point. He's 40 years old. He has like 50 fights at this point. He's taken a ton of damage. He's been finished a million times. And Medić is no joke on the feet. Like, this guy hits so hard. Some of the shots he was landing against Morales, I mean, Morales is a super tough dude, and he rocked him, and then he put him out. I think Medić probably does go out there and finish a 40-year-old Tim Means in this fight. And I'm going to be looking at some type of violence bet like I always do in a Medić fight. I think me and you both had the fight doesn't go in the Semmelsberger fight, and it was on his way to looking like a bad beat up until he was able to get that spinning back fist in the third round, which was great. Medić came in there on short notice and showed that he can go, deep into the third round if need be. I think that's very good. So I like Medić here, but I'm assuming he's a pretty big favorite on this fight. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, he is a big favorite. And, this is a situation, Brady, that it's another statistic that's just it's impossible to ignore when somebody's 9 years younger. Tim Means is 40 years old, and he's got 50 pro fights, 15 professional losses, almost 400 minutes of professional cage time and 267 minutes of UFC octagon time. So, dude, this guy's been around the block, and he's lost 3 out of his last 5 fights, but there's clearly still a pulse here for Tim Means. When I watched him fight, I don't see a guy that's showing up for a paycheck. I see a guy that's kind of like, he's reminding me a little bit of Michael Johnson, where he looks good up until the point where he really doesn't look good anymore. And he gets caught, he gets caught in submissions quite a bit. He loses some moments, and that's a thing you got to worry about. But the guys that are beating him are really good guys. Max Griffin, Kevin Holland, and Alex Morono are his last 3 losses, and those are good guys. And he fraud checked Andre Fiallo. He's got a win over Nick Dalby, and that's looking pretty good right now, as Nick Dalby's been stringing together some really good performances, and Nick Dalby's always been the same fighter. So if just 5 fights ago, Tim Means goes a full 3 rounds with Nick Dalby and comes out on top, he's not dead yet. And like you mentioned, man, now we've got to take that the oral guy fight in context here, Brady, and this is very important, right? Who was Uroš Medić supposed to fight? Do you remember? Because Orlby stepped in on short notice.
I don't.
Okay, so it was Johnny Parsons that he was supposed to fight, who is a pure Muay Thai kickboxer. So that was going to be a great fight. It was great matchmaking, right? You got a great kickboxer in Medić. You got a great kickboxer in Parsons, and they were going to stand and bang. On the week of the fight, Parsons pulls out, and then in steps this guy, oral guy, who's a grappler. So Medić was not training to grapple, and now he gets basically a guy who is a phenomenal wrestler and has won a lot of minutes and moments with his wrestling and submission game. So that was just a brutal, horrible, short, the worst possible, fight that Medić could have taken on less than 1 week's notice, considering the original opponent that he had. So I'm willing to take that Orlby fight and just throw it out the window. But it happened, and we see that massive hole in the ground game. We know that Medić, before he came to this country, he grew up in Serbia. This is a guy whose base is kickboxing. So Tim Means has been wrestling a lot lately. He's been mixing that part of his game in. And if he goes out there and wrestles early and often here and brings the conditioning to be able to push that pace for 12 and a half to 15 minutes, I think that he can make this fight very close, and I think there's going to be some value on the number here. Tim's a lot more experienced. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage. He's an inch taller, way more, 26 UFC fights to only 5 for Medić. And he's fought, the better ratioed guys. His wins are just slightly better than Uroš Medić's, in terms of my metric at least. And, there's a lot of reasons to like Tim Means, especially at the number that he's at. You look at those 12 UFC losses, 5 of them are by submission, but only 1 is by KO. Uroš Medić is not going to submit Tim Means. It's not really his game. He has, I think Uroš does have 2 submission wins on his record, but, it's not something that he's going to be submitting Means, I don't think, unless he drops him first and then jumps on something. But yeah, man, I think that this is going to be a really good fight. And most likely what happens is at some point over the first 12 and a half minutes or so, Uroš finds that moment that he's known for finding. Big kick, big punch, big power shot in some way or another probably ends this fight. And Medić is probably the one getting his hand raised. But at the number, I think it might be dog or pass, Brady.
Yeah. I mean, I can't do it, but I get it. And it looks like Peter in the chat likes Means as well. Yeah, Medić is minus 285. He opened up minus 240. Means opened up plus 180. He's currently plus 220. It's actually been all Medić love, believe it or not. Like this Medić line's been getting hammered. And you're like
10 years younger,
Yeah. No, he's a beast. I think Medić is an absolute beast.
Yeah.
I think that the oral ball fight, that guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oral boy. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's fighting. He's got a fight coming up, I think. I forget who against, but it's against a good fighter.
Yep. It's next week, actually. It's I forget.
It's going to be some Brazilian then that he's fighting. Oh, has he got Brenner?
Yes, I think it is Brenner.
Elvis Brenner? Oh, man, that's going to be a good one. Brenner is a scrapper, dude. That's going to be a fun fight.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a dominating win by Oral Boy. Or is it Oral Ball or Oral By?
I was saying Oral Guy. I don't know, dude. That's a mess of a name, dude. Mick Tebek. Mick Tebek.
My titty back. My titty back. I got that part down. My titty back. But
okay, is that what it is, dude? My understanding of Kyrgyzstani names is below average, I would say, Brady.
So my titty back Oral Guy.
Yes, that sounds right to me. It's good enough for me.
All right, yeah. So they have the over under set at 1.5. The over 1.5 is minus 200. The under 1.5 is plus 150. I'll probably be looking at some type of violence here. just because Medić literally has never seen the scorecards. And you mentioned it means he doesn't really get knocked out. The last time he did was against Nico Price, but he does get hurt in a lot of fights. A lot of these losses are clubbing subs. Max Griffin knocked him down. Holland dropped him and then subbed him. Daniel Rodriguez rocked him and then subbed him. And then, like I said, Price knocked him out. So he does get hurt, but yeah, I'm looking at maybe some type of violence in this Medić fight. Can't go wrong with violence in a Medić fight ever. So any thoughts?
Did you say plus 170 for the under 1.5, Brady?
Looks like plus 160 best line.
160. Okay. That number is fairly priced according to my prop template. And something to note there, 15 of 17 means fights outside the UFC and 6 of 6 for Medić finish under 1.5 rounds. That's 91.3% outside the UFC. But even in the UFC, it's 11 of 31 or 35.48%. It's priced right on where you would expect it to be priced according to the past performances of both fighters here. So plus 170 in an Uroš Medić 10 means fight for under 1.5 rounds. Maybe a fight doesn't start round 3 around plus 130 or plus 140. Be even a better way to play it, but I like violence here too, man.
Yep. There's a couple fighters on this card where it's just like they're violent fighters. Uroš Medić, Liang Na. We'll talk about that bum Bogdan Guskov. Bum, but violent. That's for sure.
Violent for sure, yeah.
And then even like some of these next fights as well. So yeah, looking for violence there as well. Not touching that Medić money line. Moving on, we have Weezy, your favorite fighter in the world. So wait, this is crazy. On this show, we have my favorite fighter, Liang Na, and your favorite fighter, Jonathan Pierce. Where's your Jonathan Pierce wig? Where's it at?
Dude, I don't have one, man. I got to get myself some Pierce gear. As a matter of fact, I was on the Golden Octagon's show on Friday for UFC 300, so about 9 days ago, and he's a big collector of UFC cards. So I told him my favorite fighters were Jonathan Pierce and Anthony Hernandez, and he sent me some cards, dude. So I'm gonna open these up on my show on Just the Tip on Tuesday night to open up hopefully some Jonathan Pierce cards on Jonathan Pierce Fight Week. I think it's gonna be This is a great fight. I think this is the last fight that was put on this card. I believe it's pretty much short notice for both of these guys.
Yeah, man, it's a great fight. It's a Jonathan Pierce fight, so it's definitely going to be fun. We got Jonathan Pierce going against David Onama. We got Pierce, 31 years old, 6 foot with a 71-inch reach. Onama, 29 years old, 5'11" with a 74-inch reach. Onama, 2 years younger. Pierce with a 1-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach disadvantage. Jonathan Pierce, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Omar Morales had a submission win in the second round. He beat Christian Rodriguez by decision. He beat Makwan Murakami by second-round knockout. He beat Darren Elkins by decision, then lost to Joe Anderson Brito by second-round submission. As far as Onama, he is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Lost a decision against Mason Jones, knocked out Benitez in the first round. He submitted Garrett Armfield in the second round. He lost to Nate Landwehr by decision, and then he beat Gabriel Santos by a brutal second-round knockout. So, yeah, pretty much a striker versus grappler matchup here. With that said, though, Jonathan Pierce has had improved striking, and David Onama is a solid grappler. But we know what Jonathan Pierce is going to want to do. He's going to try to get this fight down to the mat early and often. He's going to rinse and repeat takedowns. If you get taken down and get back up, you're going right back down. And one thing that just jumps off the page is just that takedown defense of David Onama. It's not great. He can be taken down. He can be controlled. He's been taken down so many times thus far in the UFC. Mason Jones went out there and took him down 8 times. Mason Jones, I think he's decent, but he's no longer in the UFC. We even saw Nate Landwehr take him down multiple times. Gabriel Santos took him down a couple times. So yeah, the wrestling is going to be there for Jonathan Pierce. And unlike like a Mason Jones, unlike a Nate Landwehr, like when Pierce gets on top of you, he's going to be landing a lot of strikes. He's going to be getting into dominant positions. And I think there's a good chance that Pierce can potentially break Onama with that pace, with that pressure, because we have seen Onama slow down as the fight goes on in some fights. The Jones fight, the Lambert fight especially. So I think that Pierce can potentially do his typical Jonathan Pierce, just break you with that relentless pressure pace, the volume, and eventually get a finish late second or third round there. But anytime this fight is on the feet, Onama's very dangerous. He hits very hard. Jonathan Pierce is pretty hittable. So, but yeah, I'm liking Pierce here. And this is another line that you said that you liked around like -110, like a week or so ago. And it's just
was there for like an hour or two, I think. They
really?
opened the line. I think Pierce was maybe around -140, and then some money came in on Onama. It got to -110. I remember I was walking out the door. I saw it, and I was like, oh, wow. And I was walking out the door, though, and I was like, this could be interesting. This line might flip. And then when I got back home, Pierce was -170. I was like, oh, come on. I hate when I do that, man. I hate when I see something and I'm like, I should just bet this now, and I don't pull the trigger.
Yeah. I mean, Mason Jones, I think he's decent. I think he's pretty good. He's a black belt, solid striking. He hasn't had success in the UFC, and he has been cut. But like I said, I think he's decent. So Weezy, and plus he went like 2-2 in the UFC, and his losses were against Ludovic Klein and Mike Davis. So those are really good fighters. So yeah, I think he's decent. Maybe it's a hot take. Oh, more than I thought you were saying he sucks. So he's more than decent. Don't know why I got same. But Weezy, take it away. Your favorite fighter. What do you got?
Yeah, this is great matchmaking because Onama's a really exciting fighter. I mean, you're talking about a guy with a 100% finish rate and 11 pro wins. And Pierce is a guy who just brings, complete chaos. He just keeps coming and keeps coming. You want to talk about fighters that refuse to fuck off. Jonathan Pierce is definitely one of those cats. He just stays on you, man. He doesn't give you a chance to breathe, and he breaks fighters in half. So I think that while this is on the feet, I've always hated Jonathan Pierce's striking defense, but I think it's that style, that very aggressive style that he brings into his fights, that he relies on his durability. He's not going to be an easy guy to knock out at this level. And because he can rely on that durability, he can fight the style of fight that we've seen him fight over and over and over again. JSP was on a 5-fight winning streak, Brady, before he got caught in that ninja choke by Brito. And Brito had won the first round of that fight. Pierce was clearly winning the second round. But Brito got back up and caught JSP, got that arm underneath the neck. And once that ninja choke goes underneath the bicep and you get your chin on top of the wrist, it's over. And now Pierce has got a chance to put together another winning streak here. And you can start with David Onama, a guy that's got 46% takedown defense and that has been taken down 3.8 times per 15 minutes over his UFC stretch, and is being controlled by his opponents over 1/3 of his cage time. So while I do favor Onama on the feet, he throws a ton of volume. He hits very hard. He's got 3 UFC knockdowns in only 5 fights. So JSP is going to be, he's going to probably want to get this fight to the ground quickly. I don't think he wants to stay on the feet for too long with Onama. I think Onama is going to get tired faster, Brady, if he grapples than if he does just do what he does on the feet, which is strike and throw a ton of volume and pressure. So, yeah, man, I think this is a good matchup for him in the sense that Onama has bad takedown defense and has given up a bunch of control time to guys that isn't necessarily their game. I mean, Mason Jones is a very good grappler, but he's not a 9 takedowns per 15 minutes, grind you out on the ground type of fighter. Gabriel Benitez certainly isn't. Garrett Armfield will wrestle, but Garrett's probably a better striker than he is a wrestler. Nate Landwehr, definitely more of a striker than a wrestler. He kind of uses his wrestling in reverse. That's what he was known for. Gabriel Santos will mix it in, but he's a pressure fighter that throws a ton of strikes. So when you're getting taken down 3.8 times per 15 minutes against that group of dudes, I think that Pierce is going to do what he does. He's going to put on that pace. He's going to make David Onama grapple from the very beginning here. And as the fight goes on, if David's not able to stop those takedowns, or able to keep the fight standing after he gets back up, I think he gets broken in the late second or in the third round here. But if he's stopping these takedowns, Onama, if he's keeping this fight on the feet, I think Pierce's lack of defense and lack of power on the feet could put him in a situation where he blows it as a favorite here. So, but I do have faith that Jonathan will be able to use his cardio and use that relentless wrestling heavy pace to make this his fight, make it David Onama's fight that he's not comfortable with, and that Pierce will wind up getting his hand raised.
Yeah, what a fight. What a fight this is. Pierce is now minus 170. And Onama is plus 140. The over-under is set at, do you know where it's set at? I have to go to bet on.
I got it on my prop template. Let me see here. Earlier today, the over-under template had it at minus 200 for the over 1.5, plus 160 for the under 1.5. And I parlayed up the over 1.5 here on my prop template, Brady. It's a trifecta bet. Minus 200 is a 66.67% implied probability. 71.43 of featherweight fights go over 1.5 rounds. Featherweight overs are one of my favorite bets to make. And then 6 of 7 Pierce fights and 4 of 5 Onama fights have went over 1.5 rounds. That's 10 of 12 combined, or 83% of their UFC fights have went over that mark. Pierce is a very durable guy. Onama hits hard, but he's also very durable. Onama's never been finished, Brady. So this minus 200 over 1.5 rounds, stylistically, I like it. And the data is telling us that it's underpriced on all 3 statistical comparisons that we make. So I parlayed up the over 1.5 rounds here at minus 200 with a fighter that we'll be talking about later. Actually, a fighter that we'll be talking about in the very next fight.
You parlayed with Austen Lane, you sicko?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I did not parlay him up with Austen Lane. But there is one other fighter in this next fight that I did parlay him up with, and we'll talk about him shortly.
Fight of the night, yeah, it definitely could be.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Fight Ready has been on a very cold streak as of late. When was the last time a Fight Ready fighter won? Genuine question.
Well, Casey Tanner lost on the Contender Series. We had Haley Alatang go out there and lose recently. Jonathan Pierce lost to Brito last time out. Who are the rest of the Fight Ready guys right now?
Eric Anders used to be a fight. I don't think he was at Fight Ready for that camp though.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, it probably has been a minute, but they also haven't been particularly busy as of late either.
Yeah. Fernie Garcia is a Fight Ready guy, but he lost.
No, he's not. No, he's a Fortis guy. He's a Fortis guy.
Yeah,
got his ass shaved by Hader Emil.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I can't think of the last time a Fight Ready fighter won, but maybe that changes this Saturday.
It's a great camp, though. I mean, to call them a bad camp because they've been a little bit cold lately is just not accurate. They got great coaches and they got a pretty good room of talented fighters over there, including Jonathan Pierce. And I think he'll get Kyler's an MMA lab guy.
Yeah, he's definitely MMA lab.
Yeah, Tracy Cortez. There you go. Tracy Cortez last time out against Jasmine Jasdavicius. Just Tracy doesn't fight enough.
Jeez, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, dude, Tracy's like a once-a-year fighter. She's just not very busy.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Jonathan Pierce, like a moderate favorite here. Moving on to the next fight, we have Jhonata Diniz going against Austen Lane. We got Diniz, who is 32 years old, 6'4" with a 79-inch reach. Austen Lane, 36 years old, 6'6" with an 80-inch reach. Diniz, he's 4 years younger. He's going to be at a 2-inch height disadvantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Austen Lane is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. He made his debut against Justin Tafa, ended up being a no contest, and then he lost to Justin Tafa by knockout in the first round. As far as Diniz, he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. He has 6 professional MMA fights. He went out there and knocked out Eduardo Neves in the first round on Contender Series. He's making his debut here, and they are giving him one Austen Lane. And yeah, I mean, you parlayed up Diniz, and yeah, it should be a pretty easy fight for Diniz, I'd say. Like, I think he's going to have a massive advantage here on the feet. He has a kickboxing background, has a lot of power. Austen Lane, very hittable, very chinny as well, has that tall man's defense. And I see Diniz knocking him out in the first round. I guess the only thing in the back of my head is maybe D1 Austen Lane potentially, but that's not something he does a ton. I don't think he's the best wrestler. And yeah, if Diniz can keep this upright, it should be a pretty quick night at the office, I'd say. So yeah, he's a decent sized favorite, but I think he goes out there and wins in the first round more than likely. His entire career has lasted probably not that long, right? He has 5 wins, or he has 6 wins. I think all 6 in the first round. So I think same thing here. First round finish for Diniz. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this heavyweight fight?
Yeah, we got Austen Lane with 17 fights as a professional. His career is 57 minutes. So that gives us an average fight time of 3.4 minutes for Austen Lane. Jhonata Diniz, 6 professional fights. Professional career, 16 minutes, 2.7 minute average fight time for Jhonata Diniz. But, this fight is probably going to be a striking match. Diniz actually has a striking background. He's a professional kickboxer. He's been in there at the highest level against the top kickboxers in the sport. He's very technical. He's very powerful. What I love about Diniz's game is that whenever you throw at Diniz, something is coming back at you. He will trust his durability and ability to be able to take a punch, and he's very precise and fast to the target with his counters. Kind of pressures and tries to force you to strike first and then returns it back at you. And he hits very hard, very clean, very technical, very powerful. Lane is a phenomenal athlete. I mean, this guy, 6'6", 80-inch reach, former football player. I think he played for the Jaguars for a minute, Brady. This guy is a great athlete, great frame for the division, very athletic, good kicks. But it's just, you look at his record and he's not fighting complete cans or anything like that. He's fighting solid regional scene competition. There's no wins that kind of jump off the page for you here. And if I can't count on Austen to win minutes with some clinch control, but even beyond clinch control, I think he's going to need to get Diniz down, because this Diniz, he hits too hard and he's too technical. He's too clean on the feet. I don't like this spot for Lane. Tafa was kind of fighting Lane the same way that I think Diniz is going to fight him. You just saw Tafa pressuring and waiting to draw out the strikes of Lane. So Lane's been finished in all 4 of his losses, Brady, all 4 of them by KO. And this guy Diniz, I mean, he just hits like an absolute truck. So I like Jhonata Diniz. I like him to win by first or second round knockout here. And I think that this is going to be it's going to be an eye opener for the fans of how clean and technical of a striker that this guy is. And like we said, since I can't really trust Austen Lane, a guy with 12 professional wins, only one of them by submission, to kind of grapple and take Diniz out of his comfort zone, I've got to go with Jhonata here, and I parlayed him up.
Yeah, I mean, should be a pretty easy fight for him, to be honest. So yeah, Diniz, first round knockout for me as well. All 6 of Diniz's fights have ended in the first round, and for Austen Lane, out of 16 fights, 14 of 16 have went under. All 16 have finished inside the distance, and that's kind of why you're seeing the under 1.5 at -275.
Yeah, that and it hits too. It hits. I mean, you got guys with 23 professional fights. Let me just do the average fight time here, right? 57.7 plus 16.4 equals 74.1. We divide that by 23. 3.22 minutes. That is the weighted average fight time of Lane and Diniz as professionals. So it's actually less than half of the 7.5 minutes that you'll have to go under here. So that could be a parlay piece this week. That under could absolutely be a parlay piece.
Yep, it's juiced, but I think it hits. The last time we saw an under that juiced was Bo Nickel, Cody Brundage. It actually went over somehow.
God damn it. That ruined my nut. I had that parlayed up, Brady. I was fucking furious that didn't hit. I couldn't believe that didn't hit. That was, I was up 1.75 units on UFC 300. It should have been like 3.8 or something like that. God damn it.
Yeah, I was surprised too. Very surprised. But I guess it was nice to see Nickel be able to go into like the late second round and still look as good as he did. But yeah, I did not think that fight was going over. And I don't think this fight's going over either, but we shall see. All right, Weezy, we'll move on to the next fight. We have the Killer. Is that Silva's name? Killer?
Karine Killer Silva, because when you lose to this woman, you wind up in the hospital.
So we have a Killer versus the Queen of Violence. I mean, how can you not love that? I'm really looking forward to this fight. I see why they put it on the main card. So we got Lipski, the Queen of Violence. She is 30 years old, 5'6" with a 67-inch reach. Karine Silva, 5'5", 67-inch reach, and she's 30 years old. Same age. It's going to be Lipski with a 1-inch height advantage and the same reach there. Lipski is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. A decision win against Mandy Bum, a knockout loss to Priscilla Cachoeira, a decision win against JJ Aldrich, Melissa Gatto, and then a submission win against Casey O'Neill. As far as Karine Silva, 5-0 in her last 5 fights, all of them via submission. She had a submission win against the very handsome Jan Kohi on the Contender Series, a submission win against Poliana Batalio in the first round, a submission win against Ketlin Souza in the first round, and then a submission win against Marion Renaud in the first round. This is a very intriguing fight here, a line that has flipped the other direction, and it's getting steamed in favor of Karine Silva. Silva was a plus 133 dog. She's now minus 155 and growing. And it's a weird fight because Ariane Lipski's looked incredible as of late. I think she's made so many improvements. Her takedown defense as of late's looked elite. I forget the exact number off the top of my head, but I think she's stuffed like the last 23, 24 takedowns in her last 3 fights. JJ Aldrich, Gatto, Casey O'Neill have all not been able to take her down. And in theory, Silva is going to want to get this fight down to the mat. But with Silva, she doesn't really need to take you down because she can kind of knock you down. Silva has a ton of power on the feet. She hurt Marina Moroz very badly. She looked like she kind of dropped Poliana Batalio as well. So she's very dangerous wherever the fight goes. This fight's awesome. This is one of my favorite fights on the card, and I think somebody's probably getting served here. And this is very interesting line movement as well because it's kind of crazy. Ariane Lipski's been looking on fire lately, but the same can be said for Karine Silva. So it's one of those fights where both these fighters are hot right now and somebody's got to lose. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I love the matchmaking here because, like you summed it up perfectly. When I saw Karine Silva as an underdog, I was like, oh, that's not going to last because there's no way you can watch the tape on Karine Silva and be like, oh, yeah, I'm fading this girl. She's not dangerous at all. Karine Silva could be getting her ass beat for 2.5 rounds and lock up something. A leg lock, a guillotine. That fight against that Chinese dude, she got that guillotine late in the second round there, Brady. But she was exhausted. She could barely get up off the canvas after she finished that fight. She brings everything. Every strike that she throws, she's looking to take your head off with it. Every submission attempt, she's looking to take a limb home with her. And she's literally doing it. She broke City Roach's arm right in half. Before that, she tore somebody's knee up with a leg lock before the City Roach fight, which was even uglier. Yeah, that dude. She guillotined that dude in the second round. And look at that dude. Like, you could tell that person pulls a plow at a farm, when they're not fighting. So that was a great fight, by the way. He was getting takedowns there and beating up on Karine, and Karine was landing big shots on the feet. That was a really fun fight on the Contender Series. But yeah, I like both these fighters a lot because Lipski was always somebody that when she first came into the UFC, we were saying, man, if she could keep fights standing, Lipski would be looking pretty good. And now all of a sudden, like you said, the takedown defense is looking really good. And against fighters like Aldrich, who shoots a ton of takedowns. Melissa Gatto, who's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Casey O'Neill, who's known for shooting a ton of takedowns. So she's gotten 3 wins against those fighters by using her wrestling in reverse and winning the minutes on the feet. And if she makes it 4 fights in a row of doing that, she's probably winning this fight too, Brady. But dude, Karine Silva finds moments wherever the fight goes. In the grappling game, whether she's on top or whether she's on bottom, she can find a very violent submission that tears one of your limbs in half. Or she can land a knockdown on the feet too. She has already got a knockdown. She knocked down Poliana Botelho. That was not counted as a knockdown because when she was on her way down from the strike, Karine Silva kind of dove into a takedown and she was credited with a takedown instead of a knockdown. But she knocked down, was it Moroz who she knocked down?
Yeah, she beat the crap out of Moroz.
Yeah. I think she got the knockdown and then finished with the sub there. So, and then Souza, that Z-lock, you could see her knee just removed from the joint that it was supposed to be in. That was nasty. This is going to be a fun fight. But yeah, I think the under. I like the under here. Remember we were talking last time because Karina fought Moroz, we were like, can we really pass on an under in a Karine Silva fight? Well, I kind of feel like we're getting a gift again this time around, Brady.
Yeah, I mean, I've bet the under in every fight thus far. Why not go back to the well? I bet the under in the Moroz fight. I think got a good line on it as well. Same thing with Souza. Like I think the under in the Souza fight was almost a pick 'em, believe it or not. And then even the Botelho fight bet the under. So I'm 3 for 3. Let's make it 4 for 4 here. But yeah, even like the under's -1. It opened up -115, which is kind of crazy. But even like -150 for a Karine Silva fight I don't think that's horrible. She has 21 fights. 20 have went under 2.5. She's been over once.
She's been to a decision once in her career, Karine Silva. She's 0-1 in decisions, it looks like.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. She did lose a decision.
Yeah, so I think I'd rather bet the under rather than the money line. It's the same price. Because Lipski, she is dangerous. She does have power. She looked like a beast in that O'Neill fight. Like she beat the brakes off of O'Neill. I thought that was a good win.
Yeah, and got the sub too. Got the finish, when O'Neill realized that it wasn't going to go her way, that she wasn't going to get the fight that she wanted. Ariane put it on her and finished her. That it's very impressive because the Melissa Gatto win was really good, and Aldrich is like what 7-4 in the UFC. That's another good win.
Yeah, Aldrich is like -400 there is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, that's that. I remember that. Yeah.
Sorry, this dude's freaking me out, man.
I know, dude. I know. I you're fucking preaching to the choir, brother. Come on, man. We just lost half of our audience. Let's show a couple of handsome men here and Ryan Spann and Bogdan Guskov.
No, I think Guskov would scare even more people off. I mean, that guy's just a terrifying looking human.
Yeah, I mean, he's already been cast as one of the torturers in Hostel 2, Electric Boogaloo. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's even worse, you would think. Look at that.
Yeah, he's a terrifying looking dude, man.
Oh, man. That receding hairline. He's talking about Guskov? It's very receding.
No, I think she's talking about that Chinese dude.
Oh, okay. All right. And the dog father liking it. Oh, okay. Let's move on then to Ryan Spann going against that bum Bogdan Guskov. We got Ryan Spann, 32 years old, 6'5" with a 79-inch reach. Guskov, 31 years old, 6'3" with a 76-inch reach. Guskov, 1 year younger. It's going to be Spann with a 2-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. Ryan Spann, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Submission loss to Anthony Smith. Submission win against Ian Kudalaba. Knockout win against Dominic Reyes. Submission loss to Nikita Krylov. And then a decision loss against Anthony Smith. As far as Guskov goes, made his debut against Volkan Oezdemir. Lost by submission. and then beat Zach Palga by knockout. So Guskov has a really weird career thus far. He made his debut against Volkan Oezdemir, which made no sense. It was like a giant step up. And then he took like a giant step down to Zach Palga. Ended up knocking out Zach Palga. And then he's taking kind of like another giant step back up to Ryan Spann, who Ryan Spann, he's very inconsistent. Like there's some fights you're like, how the heck did Ryan Spann just blow that one? But Ryan Spann is huge for the division. He's very, very dangerous wherever the fight goes. I mean, if this fight hits the mat, I mean, there's such a massive advantage in favor of Ryan Spann. But even on the feet, Ryan Spann has the power to knock out Guskov here. It's got to be Spann. It's absolutely got to be Spann. But at the end of the day, these are two very hard-hitting dudes. And like I said, Ryan Spann, we've seen him go out there and disappoint many times. He's been finished many times. And Guskov, he's not great at many things, but what he does do is hit hard. So I think Spann is so much more of a better fighter, like so much more. And he's only minus 205. It's just, I could see a scenario where Guskov does land that big shot early. I mean, these guys, again, they do hit very hard, but it's Spann for me. And I think Spann probably finishes them in the first round. The under 1.5 is extremely juiced, but that probably hits as well. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I can't stress enough, Brady, how awful of a fighter I think Bogdan Guskov is, but he's got power, dude. He's got legit power, and literally that's like up in these divisions, man, you can suck at literally everything and land one big heavy shot and it's over. And that dude, man, I'll tell you one thing. I'd rather get into a cage with Bogdan Guskov and fight that man than run into him in a dark alley. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Because at least in the cage, there's a referee there that's going to be looking out for my safety. If I saw that dude in an alley somewhere, I would turn around and I would run the other way. And I can't run for shit, Brady. So it would be an ugly sight. But this guy Guskov has got legit power. We're talking 13 knockout wins in 15 professional wins, and he's finished the other 2 by submission. So he's a finisher. But, dude, he keeps his hands around his ankles, basically. I mean, like his hands, it's like there's 20-pound weights in each of them. So he can't keep them up around his face. He gets tired and is taking massive breaths 2.5 minutes into the first round
on the walkout
in every fight. His conditioning is god awful. He has no defense. He keeps his hands around his waist. I think Bogdan Guskov is running into a dick saw on Saturday, man. I think Spann is going to knock this dude into the middle of next week. I don't think they're really anywhere close. Conditioning wise, experience wise, level of competition wise. Ryan Spann, obviously his submission game is a lot more dangerous than Guskov. If Ryan just chooses to wrestle here early, and he does mix in the wrestling, he's not great with it, but 40% of his fights take place in control time positions. I think if he just grapples early here, he tires out Guskov and then renders him ineffective and not dangerous, and then finishes him when he's tired. But yeah, Spann round 1 or 2 is the way I'm looking to play this one. I think he, like I said, I think he dick saws Guskov here and makes Guskov pay for all these deficiencies that he has in his game: the bad defense, the bad footwork, and the shitty conditioning. But Guskov has got the great equalizer. That's power. And like you said, man, it's not like we haven't seen Ryan Spann knocked out a bunch of times. So 3 career losses by knockout, 3 career losses by submission. Spann can be finished, and Bogdan Guskov is a finisher. So that's why it's a little bit dangerous, laying like minus 210 on Spann here. But I think if you take him by his best win condition, like round 1, round 2, you could get a number that's a lot closer to even and a lot more bettable, in my opinion.
Yep, 100%. Spann is minus 205. He opened up minus 255, and then Guskov opened up plus 215. He's currently plus 175. Saying it's the trilogy, Spann versus. Yeah, they do kind of look like, huh?
Did you see that there's a clip of Guskov and Smith sparring?
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, that was wild, man. They really do look alike.
And yeah, if Anthony Smith does show up for Bogdan, I mean, it's a different story because Smith has beaten Spann twice, right? Once by decision and then once by first round submission.
I haven't seen any of these squares out there, Brady, covering that angle, and the dog father brings it in for us. So much appreciated there.
We'll have to wait for weigh-ins then to see.
If they pulled that off, that would be awesome. Like he could tag in Anthony Smith, and like Smith comes hurtling over the cage to when Bogdan gets tired 2.5 minutes in.
I mean, he'll get tired on the walkout probably, and then you cannot play Spann at chalk. No, you can't.
Yeah,
Even though I
know.
think skill for skill, he's like minus 1,000. It just doesn't work that way. It's hard to trust him, but I think Spann is so much better. All right, and then the under, of course, is juiced very, very badly. The under 1.5 opened at minus 230. It's currently minus 255. The over is plus 205. And yeah, when Ryan Spann is winning, it's typically in that first round. So there's once a streak with Ryan Spann where it was like 5 or 6 first round finishes in a row. He went out there, he finished Dominic Reyes in the first round, Kudalaba in the first round, Serkinov in the first round. He did take Sam Alvey to decision, believe it or not, back in the day. But first round against Nogueira, first round against Sordi. So yeah, a lot of first round finishes for Spann, and then Guskov, all he does is finish. It has to be in the first round for Guskov. So the under probably hits, but it is once again very juiced.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think you can. There's like 5 parlay pieces on this card, Brady, right now that I can think of. Jhonata Diniz, the over 2.5 or over 1.5 in the Pierce Onama fight, the under 1.5 in the Spann Guskov fight, the under 1.5 in the Diniz Lane fight. I mean, I think that's like a 4-leg parlay where they should all hit, dude.
Right.
There's just some spots that are really sticking out here in terms of parlay pieces that haven't been driven to minus 500 yet, nor will they because they're under 1.5s.
Yeah, I'm hoping people bet like the overs. Like I'm hoping people keep betting the over in the Liang Na fight.
That's another one. Under 2.5 parlay piece. Fight doesn't go to decision. Fight doesn't start round 3. Something like that. There would be a great look.
Yep. Yeah, there's some good spots sticking out for sure. All right. So what we'll do now is we'll talk about this main event. And before we do so, if you guys have not already smashed the like button, be sure to do so. Subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. We're going to be breaking down a 5-round fight between Matheus Nicolau and Alex Perez. One thing that kind of shocks me, Weezy, is Alex Perez has been like one of the most inactive fighters ever. And he's doing like a 1 month, 18-day turnaround. So I think that's awesome. Getting right back in there. And he's taking on Matheus Nicolau, who's coming off of a knockout loss against Royval. And he's been away for about a year. So we got Nicolau. He's 31 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach. Alex Perez, 32 years old, 5'6" with a 65-inch reach. Nicolau 1 year younger, same height, and Nicolau with a 1-inch reach advantage. Matheus Nicolau is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Manel Kopp, decision win against Tim Elliott, decision win against David Dvorak, a knockout win against Matt Schnell, then a knockout loss against Brandon Royval. As far as Alex Perez, he is 2-3 his last 5 fights. A submission win against Jordan Espinoza, a knockout win against Jussier Formiga, submission losses to Pantoja and Figueiredo, and then a decision loss to Muhammad Makhachev. So this is a fight that I'm kind of struggling with, and I'm hoping you can maybe help me out here, Weezy, in terms of picking a side, because I'm a big fan of Matheus Nicolau, but at times the guy is just so incredibly low volume. I think he has so much skill, so much power, but there's times where he just doesn't let his hands go. Like the David Dvorak fight was kind of hard to watch. He didn't really do much in that fight. He's a black belt in BJJ, a great grappler, but he doesn't wrestle as much as I'd like to see. And even here, he's going against Alex Perez, who does have very, very good takedown defense. Perez has been submitted 50 times, but I'm wondering if Nicolau can get it down to the mat. And if he doesn't, what does this fight look like? Because Alex Perez, he's never been knocked down. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this fight, Weezy. This one's kind of tricky for me, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, my thoughts are, Brady, and I already told you this, I bet the under 4.5 rounds here. This is an Alex Perez fight. I mean, this guy very rarely goes to decision. Alex in the UFC has finished 4 of his 6 wins, and he's been finishing 3 of his 4 losses. So 7 of his 10 fights have finished inside the distance. And for Nicolau, You got a guy who's been finished in 100% of his pro losses, and he's finished 2 of his 7 UFC wins. But the thing about Nicolau is there's power on the feet. Guy's got 8 knockdowns in 9 UFC fights. So while he is low volume, he's extremely efficient in finding that big shot. And when the fight goes to the ground, this guy's submission game is really good. And you know what else? Alex Perez's submission defense is terrible. Absolutely terrible. So with a guy in Nicolau who's been finished in 100% of his losses, and somebody like Alex Perez who has such vicious low leg kicks and throws with so much power on the feet, I couldn't believe that the under 4.5 rounds was only minus 105, and I missed it. It had just moved from plus 106 to minus 105, but I bet that for 1.05 units to try to win one. I think Nicolau is definitely more dangerous wherever this fight goes. He's got a little bit more power on the feet with those 8 knockdowns. I think he's obviously the much more dangerous submission grappler here. We do know that Nicolau wins minutes and moments on the ground. And somebody like Perez does have very good takedown defense, 81.5% over 10 UFC fights. But Nicolau is a very high percentage wrestler in his own right, getting his takedowns at 45.5%, about 6.7% better than the divisional average. But he's not a high volume wrestler. So when he does go to it, you know, it'll catch the opponents off guard a lot of the time. And you have to worry about the power on the feet. So as long as this one isn't a staring contest, I think somebody's going to get finished here one way or another. 4.5 rounds for it to happen at about an even price. That's one I had to sign myself up for, because even better than fighters that finish their wins are fighters that get finished in their losses when you're looking for violence. And when you have, 8 career losses for Perez, 3 career losses for Nicolau. And in those 11 losses, these guys have been finished in 9 of them. So I do have faith in Alex Perez's finishing power, especially on the feet. And I've got faith in Nicolau to get a finish wherever this fight goes. And both of these guys will look for a way out. So Nicolau on a 1-year layoff, and then Alex Perez, who fights once every 4 years, is on less than a 2-month layoff, Brady. So, I just love this one, the way that it's setting up for violence. But I do favor Nicolau here. I think he's a phenomenal fighter. I think he finds ways to win minutes. He's pretty defensively responsible. I think one of the reasons he is so low volume and takes such few chances is because he can get knocked out. So I think he likes to look to be the one to land that big shot first. And then if he can land a big shot and then get his wrestling and Brazilian jiu-jitsu game going, that's where he's going to be finishing fights.
Yeah, it looks like you got some CLV already on that under. It's now minus 120. Yeah, I saw it this morning. It was plus 108 all day. Yeah. All day. And then you messaged me and it was like minus 110. I'm like, oh, it moved? Yeah, but it was there from 8 o'clock in the morning till like 4:30. It was at plus money. So you got minus 105, and it's now minus 120. Nicolau opened up minus 180. He's currently minus 181. And then Perez opened up plus 155. He's currently plus 156. Yeah, I have no clue how this fight's going to play out, but I think I would play violence. But I kind of missed the line a tad. We'll see. So, yeah, I'm leaning Nicolau as well. But it's like I said, it's a weird matchup because I don't like the volume. I like the power, but Alex Perez has never been knocked down. And Alex Perez has elite takedown defense, so I don't know. I don't like a money line at least, but I'm with you in terms of probably violence across 25.
Yeah, this should be a fun main event, as long as Perez makes it, because he's pretty much known for more than anything else pulling out of fights and at the last minute. So let's hope that the main event does take place. Otherwise, it's going to be UFC Vegas 91 Spann versus Guskov.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that. Not after UFC 300, Brady. You got to give me at least a 2 or 3 week buffer if you're going to pull that shit on me after seeing Max Holloway get a KO with 1 second left in the 5th round against the great Justin Gaethje. We're going to have to do better than Spann versus Guskov. And it's happened before. Don't forget, we did have a UFC Vegas card headlined by Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Iwan Kutalaba because Derek Lewis pulled out on fight day. So Ugh.
Yeah, we had that bum Shamil Gaziev headline a card earlier this year as well.
Yeah, and boy, Rosenstrike, your Uncle Weezy's Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week, gets it done for me as an underdog and launches my DraftKings lineup into the
Hey.
stratosphere with like 180 significant strikes. He jabbed his face off. That was a great performance by Jairzinho.
Absolutely. But yeah, we did it. We went 12 fights in. Talked about a lot. It feels good to be back. I feel like we weren't that rust. I was expecting a little bit more rust. Maybe it was the wig that helped, but yeah, we did it. We were gonna end the show after the Liang fight. A good thing we kept going and finished breaking down these fights.
Hey, we're nothing if we're not true professionals, Brady, and we got the job done. We took you through all 12 of these fights so that we can find the spots that stick out. And there are some spots that are sticking out. I'm liking this card from a gambling perspective so far.
Yep, me as well. All right, we any special plans for this car? I'm assuming you're not going as big as UFC 300, right?
Yeah, I think I did like 9 shows that week. I am paring it down to the essentials. We're going to be doing Just a Tip on Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time, just like always, right here on Pub Sports Radio. Wednesday, 8 o'clock Central Time will be the DFS show with me, Brady, Gordo. Is Gordo going to be? Gordo's got finals this week, right?
Yeah, he's out.
Okay, so it's going to be me, you, and Monk, and then maybe Lou will step in to round the show out. But and then Brady, the templates are ready, my friend. The betting template, the new prop template, DraftKings template. We've even got on there. I've given. If anybody wants my complete stats package this week, DM me on Twitter. Hit me up on the Patreon. I'll send them out to you for this week for free. I've just done a massive coding job. 95% of the way done with the work on this project, Brady, and looking to do probability on a weekly basis here using these new tools. So if you're up for doing probability from here on out on Wednesday nights, Brady, you let me know, and we'll put together a Patreon that makes that pay-per-view only content and gives you access to not only this, but all the other stats, the betting template, the prop template, the individual stats template with all the DFS scores. So if you're a DFS player, an MMA bettor, a prize picks, or an underdog player, we got all the stats for you, and we'll be bringing them to you. And you can DM me on Twitter, and I'll send them to you for this week for free for UFC Vegas 91. So you can see all the new products that I've made available. And I'm looking forward to stacking cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 91, Brady. Let's get it this week.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that week off was great for you. You were able to catch up on some coding. I'm sure that is just brutal, but especially with so much content going on. But yeah, the week off is always nice. So yeah, right back at it. My full card breakdown will be out tomorrow. Might do a main event prediction as well. And then yeah, just the regular content, the DFS show, final thoughts Friday, best bet Saturday. Then me and Weezy are going to talk about a probability as well. So best of luck, everybody. It is Liang Na fight week. Can't she get it done? Probably not, but we'll be rooting for her anyway. And best of luck for UFC Vegas 91. See you guys later.